Hello and welcome to this special Money Control interview. We're in conversation with Mohamed Kande, the Global Chairman of PwC, and Sanjeev Krishan, the India Chairman of PwC. And we're talking to them right after the PwC 2025 Global CEO Survey. The PwC CEO Survey is one of the annual fixtures on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum here in Davos. And this time, there's a lot to be optimistic about, at least based on what CEOs feel. If I just look at the first few lines, nearly 3 in 5 CEOs are optimistic about global economic outlook, and about 60 CEOs expect global growth to increase over the next 12 months, up from 38% last year and 18% 2 years ago. That's a very optimistic take, and this is coming on the back of the World Economic Forum's chief economist survey just a few days ago, which actually expects a weaker global environment this year. So, Mohamed, how do you square, these two observations or these two findings?
As you know, we interviewed more than 4,000 CEOs to get the feedback on the global economic outlook. And we believe that when CEOs see the level of investment that is being made in industries like technology, in artificial intelligence, but also in energy transition, renewable energy. There's so much capital that is being invested into innovation that many of the CEOs know, and they've seen it before, that when you have that level of investment, of capital investment, there's always something good happen, new value will be created. And they all want to be part of the value creation. So they're optimistic that good things will happen because the money and the capital is being deployed today around the world.
Right. And how much of this is driven by the super election year that we saw in 2024. Incidentally, today is the day of Trump's inauguration. People expect, better outlook for America going forward. So how much of this optimism is driven by that?
So we didn't get a direct feedback on the optimism driven by the election cycles in different parts of the world. But we know that the geopolitical issues are risk that the CEOs know they have to manage. But the geopolitical issues are not what they use to determine what strategy to execute. When they identify opportunities to deliver value or to create value, the strategy will remain the same. How they execute the strategy can be adapted to the geopolitical environment, but they will continue to execute the strategy. Why? Because the leading indicator is to see the level of investment that are being made today in the various economies. And a lot of that investment is coming from two places, the governments and also the private sector.
Right. Sanjeev, I want to pick your brains on India. This gives us a global picture that almost 60% of CEOs expect global growth to increase. What are the India CEOs telling you? What's the India outlook?
So the survey says that Indian CEOs are as optimistic about their own prospects this year as they were last year. I do believe that some part of the optimism comes from the fact that their assessment, Indian CEOs' assessment of global economic growth is higher this year. Last time it was 30%, this time it is 46%. So Indian CEOs are expecting that the global growth will be much better in 2025. And as a result, they are very, very optimistic about India's opportunity because India is at this point in time, India is very linked to the global economy. I mean, everybody is thinking about what they can do with the rest of the world because it's a globalized world. I will, however, say that, I was a bit perplexed, if I may also, to see that India still is in the minds of global CEOs the number 5 investment destination.
Wow.
I did think, because it's about what I think of myself, but it's also important to see what the others are thinking. And the global CEOs seem to still believe that in spite of all the tailwinds that India has had, we are still the number 5 destination behind Germany and China. And I think that's something to ponder over and reflect on because clearly US, UK, Germany and China seem to be still better in terms of investment opportunities for the global CEOs than India.
Right. What do you think is driving this? Because one of the pillars of the Modi government has been around ease of doing business. That's been a cornerstone of their policy in the last decade. What do you think is missing? Is it the unpredictability? Is it the taxation structure? Is it labor laws? What is making global CEOs hesitant as far as India is concerned?
Well, I mean, see, let me first say that India has seen significant progress on ease of doing business rankings and others over the last few years. But, honestly, it cannot be looked upon as an absolute. It has to be looked as a relative. What the others are doing. I think, just as we would look at what competition is doing, that's how India has to do. I think there are three things which stand out to me. One is a certain amount of regulatory complexity. I mean, we have a federal structure, but the states possibly where the last mile approvals happen, at times there are delays, and maybe we could do a little bit better. They need to be possibly a little bit more in sync with the center in some ways. I think the second one really is infrastructure, right? I mean, in spite of, we have made significant improvements. I think we're much more competitive on manufacturing side as well, significant investments going there. But, I think on the logistics cost, I think there's still some work for us to do for Indian manufacturing to really not just manufacture for India, but for the globe. I think there's still work to do. I mean, even countries like Malaysia and, Indonesia in some cases are doing better on logistics cost and maritime efficiency and digital effectiveness and so on and so forth. And that's something for us to ponder over. And I think the third one is, I think we are at a stage of where there is need for hyper skill. Right? At the one end, we have some Indian CEOs saying that they are missing skilled labor in their factories. And there are also many CEOs who are saying that they now need to reskill the tech workers to be able to now be at the cutting edge of AI and all the other things, including at what's happening in the Indian GCCs. And I think that's a severe need and will need capital, as Mohamed also said.
Right. Mohamed, one very interesting data point that I found in your survey is that 42% of the CEOs expect to increase headcount over the next 12 months. And CEOs more likely to say Gen AI led to headcount increases than decreases. That is counterintuitive because, just this morning there was a report on OpenAI's next release. They've achieved a breakthrough with super agents who can do PhD level tasks. I think Mark Zuckerberg said a few days ago that, they can make do with AI engineers rather than human engineers. So what is driving this optimism? Because this is counterintuitive. Everybody is worried about AI displacing white collar jobs.
There will be new jobs that are being created. The job creation and investment in human capital is about all the new jobs that are being created because, not because of AI, because of the new business models or the new investment opportunities that companies are getting. Let me see how we see the cycle. The companies that use AI to become more productive get a better return on investment. The better return on investment helps them grow the company. When they grow the companies, they have more capital, and what do? They invest and they grow the companies, they hire more people. It's counterintuitive, but actually the productivity improvement you get from Gen AI help companies leverage the capital that they need to hire more people. But they're not the same job, and this is the thing that we have seen every time you had a big technology inflection point. Are some jobs where you're going to have lower growth of recruiting? Yes. But what about the net new jobs that are going to be created? How many net new jobs were created with the advent of the internet that didn't exist before? How many net jobs will be created because of AI? That's the question to be asked. And every company, for them to be able to adopt AI, need people that understand AI. So you have the new job categories are going to be created.
Right. Sanjeev, one other thing about India, if you look at the recent GDP numbers, they were below expectations. The advance estimates are not too encouraging. There is worry about a slowdown in urban consumption. And there is a demand that the government should do something to stimulate growth in the near term. So despite that, what is making CEOs optimistic?
Well, I mean, there's no doubting the fact that, the GDP numbers are what they are. Partially got to do with the fact that government spending also has slowed down over the last 6 months in particular. We expect government spending to pick up. And, I think that should be spurring a significant amount.
But there's going to be another round of state elections, another round of freebies.
I think it's a cycle. It's a cycle. But I must say that government spending, as government spending has been a bit shallow this year than it has been in previous years. And there hasn't been enough on the capital side as there was in the last 3 years now. Every dollar of capital spend spurs incremental OPEX spending, for instance, and that hasn't happened this year, for instance. At the same time, I do believe that from from an Indian CEO standpoint, if you look at services, we have been doing very, very well. Now it's a question of how do we harness that even more. All the investments that are going into some of the new age sectors. Look at what's happening on the climate side, for instance. I mean, the amount of investments that India is making on hydrogen, the amount of investments that India is making on solar, wind, etc., significant capacity enhancements. I think that is going to put India on the roadmap to green the country. Then look at some of the semiconductor investments. 2 big OSAT plants coming along at this point in time. And I think these are again going to spur follow-on investments that are going to happen, because it's not about these industries only, it is also about the ecosystem that needs to get created. And I do believe that some of these will make sure that India, keeps its head above water. And as I would also like to think that partially it is also got to do with the fact that, the global economy, they are expected to do much better. Now, I do not know whether that has an impact of what you just asked earlier to Mohammed, but certainly I can believe, from my impressions of talking to Indian CEOs, if the global economy is doing better, the Indian CEOs are bound to feel a little bit more optimistic.
Right. Final question to you, Mohammed. 42% of CEOs believe that their company will not be viable beyond the next 10 years, that they need some kind of, reinvention. What kind of new business models will we expect? What industries will need more reinvention than the others?
What we have seen in the past, that industries like entertainment and media, technology, and you look at industrial manufacturing, are industries that would seeing that sense or need of reinvention more so than many others. And now what we just found out with a recent survey, that the pharmaceutical industry also is looking at itself about how do they change the business model. Pharmaceutical is how do they do drug discovery and how fast they do it, and how they use technology to accelerate the speed of drug discovery by years. It's not by months, it's by years, right? A lot of the industrial companies, for example, are thinking about how do they use technology to change how they run the business and how they get to the end customers. Many of the business-to-consumer companies, or also a lot of the industrial manufacturing, are thinking about what is the best way for them to get to the customers and remove all the intermediaries. That's the type of business model that we are looking. But all of them will be enabled by technology. This is not a new thing when you think about technology. Think about the entertainment and media industry, how they had to change the business model. Before the mobile internet, we all watched TV, multiple TV channels and all this. Mobile internet, you consume your content on the go, on your cell phone, on demand. Think about all of the things that had to change for this to happen. Complete business model reinvention. It's on demand compared to a fixed program on TV. That's an example of change of business model. And you have had a lot of companies. Change of business model is e-commerce, direct to consumer. Rather than going to the store, the seller actually send you directly to remove everybody in the middle, which is the storefront. And another change of business model. It happened before in the past. It is bound to happen again. Now, do we know what the business model are going to be? Not necessarily. We know something is going to change. Because the companies are finding out that the way they run the businesses today, with the basis of competition that they have, they're not delivering the profit margins that the stakeholders have to respect. They have to do something different. And technology has taken the barriers to entry in many industries down, and they see more competition.
Great. On that note, thank you both very much for talking to Money Control. Thank you. Thanks.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.